Hello and welcome to Improving Scottish Football. My name is Kieran, and on the episode today, we are going to be talking about the TV deal. Yes, it's that thing that we all love to criticise. Well, in this episode, we are going to break it down for you and really dig into whether it's good or not, or if it's not good, how bad is it? To do this, I'll be joined by Alex Marr. If you're on Twitter and you're in the Scottish football community, you will know Alex. He is effectively a media blogger. I've also heard him referred to as a media encyclopedia, although he did make me promise not to call him that. So sorry, Alex. Now, just before we jump into the episode, a little note that I am looking for sponsors. So if you run a company, or if you have some sway in how a company's marketing budget is spent, and if you want to reach an audience of hundreds of football fans, please get in contact. improvingscottishfootball@gmail.com. So sponsorship would help ensure this podcast sustains and grows. I'm obviously really determined to keep this going, but if there's any sponsors out there who are willing to partner with me on it, that would be hugely appreciated. So if you can offer any help, please let me know. improvingscottishfootball@gmail.com. And now that is done, it's on to the show. Right, hello everyone. I am delighted to be joined by Alex Marr. Alex, how are you?
I'm doing not bad yourself.
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. So can you please give us a bit of an introduction to yourself and just tell us about your connection to football, if you will.
So I suppose most listeners would probably know me as the little cretin behind the keyboard of SPFL Watch on Twitter. And basically I have an interest in all things broadcasting and commercial in Scottish football. So basically just write about TV and football and all other things.
I don't want you to do yourself a disservice. You're actually a brilliant resource via Twitter, just giving, myself and I think all of the Scottish football community, a really good insight into what is actually happening, with all things media. And you're just great at breaking things down. So on behalf of everyone, thank you very much.
That's making me feel like sort of special, more special than I actually am, to be fair. I don't know. I do like giving people a little peek behind the curtain. I think people quite like that, and I always want to know more about what actually happens and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, but the amount of work that actually goes into you breaking down all the figures, in terms of how much clubs get. And what the TV deal's worth, it's no small feat. So anyway, there you go. That's the only compliment I'm going to give you.
Yeah, I was going to say it's all going to be all downhill from here, isn't it?
Now I'm going to grill you on the numbers.
Yes.
So we're obviously going to talk about the TV deal and just try and break it down a little bit, because it does get a bit of a bad rep. It's so easy for us all to jump on the bandwagon. And criticize it and say, why are we getting a crap TV deal? Why is there no money in our game? And, Sky or whoever else, need to value it more. But obviously, it's not as straightforward as that. So, yeah, can you just kind of give us a rough overview of the current deal that we've been working with, and also a little bit about the deal that we're about to move into?
Yeah, sure. So at the minute, Sky are the exclusive rights holder for the Scottish Premiership, and they have the rights for up to 48 games a season from 2020 to what was originally 2025 is now being cut back to 2024, and they are paying roughly 27 million pounds a season for that. Basically, they have the rights. They have the rights to show up to 48 games. The up to being the important part of that, which means 4 games per ground, which is quite a unique clause in television rights. Most leagues don't have a sort of, well, most leagues show every game, but most leagues don't have a clause about how many times you can go to each ground, or if you do, it's not as strict as many as the ground. It might be like you have to go to every ground a certain number of times, and you have to go, but there's a maximum you can go to, but not as strict as the SPFL is. There's also the bonus in recent years, in the last pretty much this season and next season, pay-per-view is allowed for games that don't kick off at the same time as a Sky game, or don't kick off in the sort of 3 p.m. blackout. So each club gets the rights to 5 home games that they can show on a pay-per-view basis across the season. The new deal that we are way to move into from 2024-25 season to 2029, that's for up to 60 games. It's a small increase, so it goes from 27 million to 27 to 29 million over the 5 years. Again, it's 5 games per ground instead of 4, but it's the same very strict clauses. Sky have to show a minimum of 42 games, and there's also 2 bonus packages up for sale, which Sky have first option on. Those are 2 packages of 10 games that those games can't be shown at Celtic Park or Ibrox, which is quite an important clause in that. And those rights are basically there in case Sky don't want to show them. The SPFL can then sell them to a secondary broadcaster, so anyone from BBC, Viaplay, BT, Amazon, whoever wants them. Pay-per-view is also staying as well for another 5 years. Again, it's 60 games on pay-per-view, 5 per club. Interestingly, not every club runs a pay-per-view service. I think Ross County don't run one, which means that 60 is immediately brought down to 55. And there's other clubs that are, I would say, less than willing to show games via pay-per-view. There's probably a lot more detail I could drag into it. I'm trying to keep it fairly concise. Hopefully I've done sort of that.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a good overview to start us out with. Okay, so we're roughly in the 25 to 29 million pound per season ballpark just now, and then moving into the future. What do you say to people who say that is pretty rubbish?
I would say I agree to an extent. I would say it's undervalued. I'd agree with that. I would say it's probably undervalued by a scale of about 25% for the games that we've sold, which is quite an interesting line that I like to use. The issue that has been done with the deal is the previous deal and this deal were both agreed at times when Sky's biggest competitor was going through a bit of turmoil. So with the 2020 to 25 deal, that was agreed when BT didn't have a chief executive. So there was no sort of board ability to sort of sign off on any bids. Not that they wouldn't have bid it anyway, but we'll never know. And the same's happened again. Basically, there was no official tender process, although according to Doncaster and other people involved in the process, that wasn't as much interest. But again, BT were in the process of being bought out by Warner Brothers Discovery, and that deal hadn't been completed by the time the rights renegotiation had been agreed. So again, that's kind of, I think there's the SPFL doesn't do a great job of itself of sort of picking the right time to do these sort of rights renegotiations. The big thing I would say, and I think this is the big thing you probably see on social media, is that we have a great deal per game. We get one of the highest per game revenues of a league, but almost every other league sells every game or sells nearly every game. We don't. So we have quite and at the end of the day, it's not really the price per game value that matters. It's the big number on the end. It's if you can sell 100 games at sort of 400 grand a season, that's 40 million. If you're only showing 48 games at that, it's going to be significantly less. It's going to be about 20 million. So that's kind of what the SPFL has kind of fallen into this trap of doing, is they like to say we're getting a huge amount per game, but they're not selling enough games. And the clubs, I think, are still in a kind of, I think what you would probably describe as an antiquated way of thinking when it comes to broadcasting. They still think in the sort of 1990s way of, we'll have one game a week on TV, or we'll have maybe 1 or 2 games a week on TV. That's enough. when in reality, I would argue that it probably isn't nowadays. I think you would be looking at maybe 3 or potentially even more games per week on TV, and the benefits of that aren't like I would say that the benefits of that are outweigh the negatives. I think you're going to get a lot more interest from broadcasters if you're selling 80, 100 games a season rather than just selling 60 or 80 or 48 even. Broadcasters want content. They don't want just a little niche.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So we get something in the region of 400 to 500,000 pounds per game broadcast. Is that generally about right?
Roughly, yeah, somewhere in that ballpark, obviously. Bonus packages that are taken and whatnot, but roughly about that, yeah.
One thing, from what you're saying, we could definitely do to increase, money coming in is to televise more games, right? Rather than just having, yes, it's great we're going from 48 to up to 60,
Potentially
but
up to 80, potentially, I should say potentially up to 80.
because one of the justifications that I've heard, and I can't remember whether it was Neil Doncaster himself who said this or not, but one of the main reasons for not televising even more games, limiting it to to around 60, is the fact that Scotland has got the highest, per capita, amount of people going to games, in person in Europe, and that's amazing. And this is something that gets banded around quite a lot. Like, it's something that, it's right that we're proud of it, but it's almost like sometimes it's used as a justification for, oh, well, if we televise too many, people will stop going to games, and then clubs will lose their match day revenue and stuff like that. But I mean, I would argue that, well, if we can sell even more games, it's going to bring more money in. It's going to enhance the product that we have, which is going to entice even more people to go to the game if they're watching better players in a better stadium, with a better match day experience. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I think maybe some games will have an effect on. I think in England we have seen there's an effect on sort of midweek games. Um, Maybe people don't want to go up to Dingwall on a Wednesday night. I don't blame them, but I don't think it's going to make a massive. I think the massive impact. I think you're talking maybe a drop of maybe 5%, 10% in crowds, and that's a worst case scenario. There's clubs in Scotland that have waiting lists for season ticket holders. Hearts have a waiting list. Rangers and Celtic have waiting lists. Aberdeen and Hibs are, they're 80% capacity most weeks. So's St Mirren nowadays. I think people are going to go to games if they're are going to go to games regardless. I think what's putting people off you isn't going to be whether or not it's on TV, unless it gets put at a stupid time. If you're putting games at Monday 7:45 and stuff, that's maybe one thing that you have to worry about. But the league can work with broadcasters, or even better still, they can do what they do in other leagues and just set kickoff times for TV, which is what England do and what Germany does. Say, yeah, most games kick off at 3 p.m. But yeah, we're going to have one game at Saturday at 5:30, one game on a Sunday at lunchtime, one game on a Sunday afternoon. That's what most other countries do. I think we need to be a bit more, get with the times on it a bit more. We've seen other leagues go from having maybe 1 or 2 games a week to every game live, and I think there's been an increase in crowds in most other leagues. I think using the attendance argument, I don't really think it works. I think Scotland would still have the highest crowds per capita,
Yeah,
regardless if we had extra 40 games a season on TV or not.
absolutely. Like, people who still want to go to the football will still go to the football. It's so ingrained in our identity. But yeah, I really think that selling some more games would obviously go a long way to bringing in more revenue. And by God, we need
We
we
need
need we
money.
need some we
Yeah.
need some money.
But even look at the Edinburgh Derby final day of the season this year.
Oh
There was
yeah,
no legal way for a fan to watch that game because of the pay-per-view rules. It couldn't be shown on pay-per-view because it was at the same time as the Sky game. Sky had wanted to show it live, but they'd messed up by showing Hearts Ross County earlier in the season, so they'd filled their allocation of games at Tynecastle, which meant, the clubs were within the rules to say, no, you're not showing it, you're not paying us money to show it. And then the game was a sellout. So if you wanted to watch that game, there was no option other than waiting till BBC Alba at 6 p.m., which is not, let's be honest, as much as BBC Alba do a fantastic job with their production, I think they cover the women's game brilliantly. It's not really what people are wanting. People are wanting to see a European shootout on the final day of the season. Same, we're fortunate the same didn't happen in the bottom six, where at least it was on pay-per-view. But, it's very frustrating that if you actually make sure these games are televised, people will watch them. I mean, Ross County Partick Thistle was watched by well over 200,000 people last weekend. So don't give us the argument that no one wants to watch Scottish football. People do want to watch it. People will watch a good game. And if it's a European shootout and then a derby, people will watch it. So, yeah, please sell more games.
Yeah. Now, okay, so good. We've agreed between the two of us that more games should be shown. That's fantastic. But the problem, as I understand it, is that this isn't actually really a decision for Sky or for the SPFL. It's actually for the actual clubs themselves, because it's the clubs who put a limit on the fact that they only allow every ground to have, TV cameras there 4 times a season. This will be going up to 5 times a season, and 5 times 12 is 60. Hence the new 60 limit. So why have the clubs put this limit? Oh, you can only come to our ground 5 times a season. Why are we the only country who have got this weird rule in place that then prevents Sky from going and covering Hearts v Hibs?
So I think there's a number of reasons, but historically it was a Rangers and Celtic thing. Because let's be honest, they're the two best clubs. People want to watch them most. I don't think that's a controversial statement to say. And I think certainly that's the way Sky see it if you see their selection of matches. I traditionally, it used to be under the old Sky BT deal between 2013 2020, between 2013 2020. It was, I think, something like 6 games a season at 10 clubs and 4 games a season at 2 clubs. I think you can guess which the 2 are. And I think this caused a lot of annoyance with the other 10 clubs. And so they decided, we'll make sure it's the same for every club from now on. And then, unfortunately, instead of doing the sort of logical thing, which most people would have gone, all right, okay, we'll make it 6 games per ground, we'll sell 72 games, and we could sell them to a single broadcaster, and we could have roughly 2 games a week. They decided to do the opposite and sell 4 games per ground for up to 48, not all that get shown. And basically under the new deal, they've reverted back almost, because those bonus packages that I said earlier, they're 2 times 10 at the 10 non-Old Firm grounds. So we've kind of come full circle again from 2013, which is very odd. And I think the logic behind it from Rangers and Celtic's point of view was to preserve their season ticket sales. However, I think their season ticket sales are going to be fine regardless. The idea that having an extra 2 or 3 games a season on the telly is going to stop Rangers and Celtic fans coming, I find quite farcical. I think the only thing that's going to stop Rangers and Celtic fans coming is them being bad, which, based off the way they're playing at them, specifically Celtic at the minute, and then Rangers a couple of seasons ago, it doesn't seem likely they're still going to be competing for the league title and Champions League every season. So I think it's a very much an argument that's a legacy of an era about 10 years ago, which I don't quite understand. But you're right, it does come down to the clubs, but the SPFL is a members' organisation, it's a clubs' organisation. So I think there needs to be a lot more thinking from clubs, and I think there needs to be someone involved at the SPFL or involved at that level that needs to be, right, let's think logically about how we're going to do things. A rising tide lifts all ships. It's not just Rangers and Celtic aren't going to lose anything by having an extra 4 games on TV a season. If anything, they're going to gain more by having commercial uplift of being on Sky more often and having more viewers and more eyeballs seeing, sponsors seeing, Dafa Bet or whoever the Rangers sponsor is, Unibet, whatever it is. That's what's going to bring in more revenue. So I think they need to think a bit more logically about it.
So I want to come back to that in a second, but just a quick one for you. Is there any sort of get out clause that you're aware of for this new Sky deal that's about to kick in? Or do we just need to be thinking about this thing for 2029 and whatever's going to come next?
There's no get out clause. As far as I'm aware, there's no option. If anything, I think there's probably an extension clause in it. Um, Although I've not seen that reported, and that's purely my hunch rather than anything else. Um, the league and the clubs are happy with Sky. This is a point that, as much as people moan about them, the league and the clubs are both happy with Sky. The only club that has really raised any concerns was Rangers, and to be honest, it wasn't really about Sky. It was more about the cinch deal, and the sort of follow on from that. That was more their issue with it. Um, I would say there are things the league can do within the confines of the deal. They can centralise the pay-per-view offering. As far as I'm aware, there's no clauses stopping that. So the SPFL could, in theory, merge their pay-per-view offering, put it as one platform in SPFL TV, which is something I'm going to bang the drum about loads. If you follow me on Twitter already, you've probably seen me tweet it about 100 times in the last 3 months. That's an option. They can do that. That can be done tomorrow, and it can be set up for August. Please do this, please. So there's things they can do to increase revenue. Their international rights are done by country. That's all handled by an agency. But yeah, that's done on a sort of by country basis. So those deals expire at different times depending on when they were signed, etc. So like, for example, CBS deal in America is up till 2026. So there's still plenty of things clubs can that the league can do to increase broadcasting revenue. Just the Sky deal is set in stone. 60 games are set in stone. The bonus 20 can go to Sky or can go to someone else. That's it. There's no get out clause.
Okay, good to know. Right, let's talk about centralized pay-per-view in a second. Just a quick one, just so I'm fully aware of how the system works. If if there is a consensus to, let's say, okay, let's lift the amount of games per ground shown every year from 4 or 5 up to 8, 9, 10, or if the clubs want to do something else that's maybe going to enhance their future TV deal or anything else. How does that system actually work? What's the actual kind of voting system like, and what are how do people bring ideas to the table, and how do they actually get voted through?
So it can come in different ways. It can either come from the league or from the clubs, and they are to an extent one and the same thing. There's only, I should say, people say the SPFL, if it's this big organisation, there's like 7 people who work for them. Not a big organisation, really small. A lot of hard-working people who work there. Well, I was going to say, so there's a lot of all the people who work there working their socks off. The clubs will effectively agree with probably Neil Doncaster, and then probably with a consultant as well, some sort of media advisor. They would agree a package of games that they are happy to sell to a broadcaster. There has to pretty much be a unanimous consensus. They can't just go and it's not a majority. It would be, I think, minimum. It depends on how the vote is called and how it's determined by the SPFL board, but it would be probably an 8-4 vote at 8-4 vote or an 11-1 vote. So it needs a very high majority to clear. And I think for broadcasting decisions, it's 11-1. So it's very much you need full consent. So if even 2 clubs, for example, were not happy about them having to show more games at home, they could just scupper any idea, and they have done in the past. So it's frustrating. I think it's really probably the only league that I can think of that has such a high bar to clear. Unfortunately, Aberdeen voted against changing that at one stage, and they could have changed it to sit 9-3, which would have probably been a bit more realistic.
it's a system that is just built to resist change.
Exactly.
It is, if two clubs are happy with the status quo, yeah, things are fine, they're working okay. Why should we change them? Okay. Uh, Pay-per-view, centralized pay-per-view.
Yes.
You seem to have implied that you're in favor of this. So just
Where
talk
have
to
you got
me.
that impression from?
Talk to me like I'm a complete idiot, please, here with pay-per-view. Um, just just give me a quick overview of your dream scenario here. What would you really like to see, Alex?
But so I should say at the minute, every club in every SPFL division, so going all the way down to League Two, has the rights to sell 5 games on a pay-per-view basis this like any season, over the course of the season, as long as they don't clash with 3 p.m. blackout or in the Premiership a live Sky game. The issue with this is that you have 40, you could end up having 42 different streaming services. And that's what we have the issue with. We have about 35 because not every club runs a pay-per-view service. Ross County, for example, don't run one. I think Hamilton don't run one, and a few clubs in League Two don't as well. So at the minute, what you've got is all the clubs running different platforms, often on the same sort of website engine system, operating software. That's the phrase I'm looking for. Um, and it's costing the clubs quite a lot of money to do. What I would like to see is basically it's all centralized into one package where it can be sold as a season pass, a month pass, or a day pass. So you're still kind of retaining that basic pay-per-view option. Um, and instead of at the minute in the Premiership, we had I think 30 games on pay-per-view last season, and it ended up costing, if you want to buy all of them, it would have cost 420 quid. If you're able to buy a package that shows all those pay-per-view games for £99 a season or £119 a season, then I think that's quite a good deal. And I think a lot of people would buy into it. If you only had 40 or 50,000 people buying that, that's a lot of money for a league over a year. Even minus costs, you're still looking at £7-8 million. And it's a lot more than what clubs are making on pay-per-view at the minute. I spoke to a League One club, who I won't mention, but they were making basically 10, 11 grand a season on pay-per-view under a sort of system based on, basically on these rough sort of figures. And it was paid out in the same way the SPFL pays out the cinch money and other commercial revenue. They would be making double that, and I think it gives us such a bigger option. We've seen with the EFL, they've sold off their iFall service effectively to Sky, and it's ended up getting a huge uplift in revenue. It makes you more competitive when you go in for a rights renegotiation if you have your own service that's there. It's the sort of thing that Viaplay would love. It's the sort of thing that sort of TNT with Discovery Plus would love. If they could just buy that service and show all those games. I think now with the ease of technology to do it, it's such a no-brainer. And it's something that I think can be done, as far as I'm aware, it can be done within the current parameters of the broadcasting deals. I think it's just I don't see why any reason why you wouldn't do it.
So,
It's
so how does that actually? How do we take that forward? How would that actually, get driven forward in real life? Does it have to go to a similar voting system, or does it just need someone at the SPFL just to go, guys, here's what we're gonna do?
So they can do it in multiple ways. They could do it from the sort of top down thing, say, we're going to do this. You guys need to vote it through. We think we can predict that it's going to reach £10 million of revenue over the next however ever years or whatever. So that's one way they could do it. The other way they could do it is they could let it grow naturally, and they could sort of say, right, going to do it for Leagues One and League Two, and then over time, going to add Championship clubs, and then more and more clubs will get interested in doing it, and then it can sort of grow arms and legs. The issue with that second option is I would highly suspect you would get bigger Premiership clubs that would just point blank not be interested in it, just because it's seen as they would be seen as splitting the revenue with other clubs. I think the best option would be honest with the clubs, all get together and agree to something like this. It's a scenario that seems like a no-brainer in so many different ways. Um, but it would need the sign off of the bigger Premiership clubs. I think they're the only ones that would have a sticking point over it. I think the way that you would probably address that issue is that you say you have a Bundesliga style TV split where they split it over viewing figures and position in the league. So the games that are the most watched on the service, the teams that are most watched on the service get a bigger proportion of the revenue. Um, I can understand why that might not be ideal for everyone, but I think that's a better scenario than not having it at all.
Okay.
I thought far too much about this.
Well, at least somebody is.
I think that's actually one criticism I would levy at sort of Scottish football generally, is that I don't think there's someone in the room thinking about the sort of minutiae of how things are going to look. And they're not thinking about, wait, if we're going to have 48 games, etc., how's it going to look on the final day of the season? Maybe we should just do 48 games, but get a free choice on the final day of the season, and there's no restriction on what grounds you can go to, because at the minute the scenario you have, broadcasters want to have games up their sleeve, and then that means those games don't get shown at all, which is kind of what we're seeing at the minute. Sky have only shown 41 and 42 games out of their 48 for the past 3 seasons.
Yeah, this kind of only going to four, grounds or 5 grounds per season. It's actually something that's bugged me for quite a while, right? Because it's not just about it then limits the amount of games that can be shown. It's also about the perception of Scottish football and how it looks to, a UK-wide audience and an international audience, because the fact that you only get to see Celtic Park and Ibrox only 4 times a season, when they are incredible stadiums, with incredible support and atmosphere, right? World famous. And also, the other big clubs in Scotland as well. The fact you can only visit them, 4 or 5 times a season, and the broadcasters also have to visit some of the smaller grounds. And I'm going to pick on a club here, and I don't mean it. I don't mean any bad will. But Hamilton in the Premiership, when you've got the TV cameras going as many times to New Douglas Park, where there's only 2 stands that are not full, and just the way that looks, the perception of that being on TV as many times as Celtic Park and Ibrox, it just isn't a great look.
Even worse than that, it's not. It's always when they're playing Celtic or Rangers, so it looks 50% of the crowds at Hamilton, for example, or Livingston, 50 plus% of the crowd is going to be Celtic and Rangers fans, and it doesn't really, I think, show. And it's probably going to be, if it was Hamilton, it's probably going to be a one-sided contest. It doesn't look great on camera, especially if that's the only game that week that's going to be on TV.
And just one final thing, just to justify my point about picking on Hamilton. If you look at the English Premier League, they don't go to Bournemouth, they don't go to the Vitality Stadium as much as they go to Anfield, or the Emirates. They know down there how to pick the best product, and they also seem to be like super flexible in terms of deciding quite late on what is going to be the best games to go to. Even like, for instance, like when our split was called in the season just gone, Sky said, okay, these are the games we're going to pick for the next, month and a half. And there was no kind of flexibility, it seemed, there to adapt that to actually some unfolding drama, regarding, the final Edinburgh Derby, for example. So
I think part of it, this is probably uber critical, I think there's people high up at Sky that don't understand how the split works. Because honestly, it seems like that, because it's the amount of times I'm seeing post-split, they only show 2 or 3 games post-split. And I'm like, the split's brilliant. The split's absolutely brilliant. So in the MLS, probably the closest that I can think, when they do their kind of end of regular season, try not to cringe when I say this, end of regular season, and then they go to their post-season playoffs. They call it decision day, the final day before before, and they go to every game live and they bounce between the games. And even better now that they've got Apple on board, who are doing brilliant job. Now they've got Messi, they must be absolutely loving the fact that they've got that as well. But yeah, they call it Decision Day. They show every game live, every game in the Eastern Conference, every game in the Western Conference kick off at the same time. It's brilliant. I find it absolutely baffling that broadcasters, aren't interested in that. All the games kicking off on the final day, bounce between the grounds. It seems like it seems like something that I just don't think they quite understand. And it's been around for 20 years. To be fair, still people who still don't understand how it works who go to games. It's like, I think about times I've heard, but you play the same team, but the team in seventh can have more points than the team in sixth. And I'm like, yeah, but they're done differently. Anyway,
Yeah,
that's a different rant.
Oh yeah, if you hadn't understood the split by now, I don't think there's much hope for you. Not the most difficult thing to grasp in the world.
It's not Belgium, put it that way, where they have like just a complete conspiracy board of you can finish third in the second division and still qualify for Europe. Which, to be honest, like I say, as a Dundee United fan, I'm a big fan of now. Suddenly became very much in favour of
that. Okay, so we are coming to the end, I think. Alex, we have only just skimmed the surface on all of this, so no doubt I'd love to get you back for a future episode and we can maybe dig in with our fellow nerds out there. Dig into some more specifics. A couple of things before I let you go, Alex. The women's game. Just give us a little bit of an overview in terms of, how the Scottish women's game kind of fits into all of this and what their current situation is.
So I think the increase in coverage in the women's game over the last probably 3-4 years has been nothing short of spectacular. I think in 2018, Glasgow City won the title in like a public park, and now we're having games on Sky Sports. Roughly how it works is Sky have the rights for 5 games a season, plus they're also have the title sponsorship of the League Cup, similar to how viaplay have for the Men's League Cup. I think they're paying just north of $500,000 a season for that. They retain the option to buy another 5 if they want. BBC Alpha, they have the rights to show roughly 2 games a week. It's a game and a half a week, I think, roughly. I don't think they're paying much money for it. I think they're effectively just paying for the production costs. And then BBC Sport Scotland will stream maybe a game, maybe 2 games a week on the sort of BBC Sport website. The bigger thing in all of that, though, is that BBC Sport are producing a highlights programme on a Monday night, Sports Scene SWPL show, which, if you've watched, it's actually very, very well produced. It's actually really high quality. All the games are covered really well. Commentators, all the games. It's not like a kind of 15-minute round-up show that you sometimes see. I think broadly speaking, it's more about, if you think that it's almost the opposite to the SPFL TV deal in many ways. The SPFL TV deal is about probably most bang for buck is what they would say. Whilst the SWPL is more about just getting the exposure. There's a bit of money involved as well, which is important, but it's mostly about the exposure. I think it's probably the right balance they've hit, and the fact that on the final day of the season, the 2 most important games in the SWPL season were on TV. One was on BBC Alpha, one was on the BBC iPlayer, and then BBC Alpha also swapped between the grounds when the goal went in. And I actually thought it was top notch. The way they covered it was brilliant. It was a bit odd that Sky had a camera in the cab where Fiona McIntyre with the trophy, and they weren't showing either game. I thought that was quite odd. And they couldn't show the goals from either game either, which was very bizarre. But I think it was definitely, if you're looking for drama, I think they always talk about the Aguero moment in England, the Lauren Davidson scored the 92nd minute winner, and then Rangers scoring the winner that was an equaliser that was disallowed at the other end in stoppage time. It's brilliant. I think the women's game's going on leaps and bounds, and I think it's something genuinely to be excited about. Massive fan of watching the SWPL on TV. Still a long way to go. I think there's a lot of clubs, some clubs like Rangers, Celtic and Hearts and Hibs taking it really seriously. I think others are taking it a little bit less seriously. The women's side is just kind of like effectively they might just give them sort of loose affiliation to the club, but it's going in the right direction. I think it's undeniably going in the right direction, and it's certainly one that will continue to improve over the coming years. So I can't get enough of it, and I think we need to sort of shout about it because it's good, it's exciting, it's it's a professional league now.
And is that TV deal, for instance, Sky having 5 games, is that wrapped up in the men's game, or is it a completely separate entity?
I think so. It was announced at the same time as the extension, and it was kind of rolled into one because the SPFL's now kind of taken over the SWPL, effectively just runs it. I think it's probably a separate deal from what I've heard because the leagues weren't merged at the point it was agreed. So I think it might be a separate deal. One thing to note, I should say on this, is that the new Scottish Football Marketing, which is agency, which is just launching at the minute, in the process of hiring staff for it, that's going to agree commercial deals across the women's game, the men's game, and as well as Scottish FA. So you might see like a sponsor have like advertising hoardings at all three of it at like Scottish Cup, SPFL, and SWPL. So that's one thing to keep an eye on in future.
Before I let you go, then, Alex, one final question for you. If you had a magic wand and you could change one thing about Scottish football, what would it be?
I think it would be, well, I'd love to say it to give Scottish football 1 billion a year TV deal, but I think that's probably unrealistic. I think for me it would be for the people in charge of Scottish football to think about how the game is viewed, both in a marketing aspect, but both in a broadcasting aspect as well. Both how do we watch the game, how do we consume the game, and how is that changing as we move into the 2020s and into the 2030s? That needs to be the priority, and making the most of that needs to be the priority. That's the way that's going to. I was going to say that's going to make Scottish football great again. But that sounds very Trumpian. That's what's going to bring in the most revenue, make the clubs better. That's what's going to end up in having. I think if you can unlock that and you can make the most of that, so many more benefits will come your way because of it.
I completely agree. Like, we have to look towards the future. You can't just be doing the same old kind of models, for decades and decades, because, we're just going to fall behind the times. Change is the law of life. So, no, that's good. Yeah, we need to have some real kind of forward thinking going on. Alex, it's been a pleasure. Would love to get you back on in the future. Would you be up for it?
Yeah, of course. If you can bear speaking to me again, and if people really want to, people's ears aren't bleeding after all this, then yeah, I'd love to come back.
Good stuff. All right. Well, until then, Alex, thanks very much. And hope everyone enjoyed listening.